Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And this is indeed lesson number 14 in our dive. Sorry, my phone looks very weird. In our dive into the wonderful world of musical theory. And this is an extremely important lesson because this is when we start our chapter on duration. So, this is one of the fundamental elements of music, duration. And previously we've talked about pitch, right? We went very in depth into that. We talked about clefs, we talked about staff, we talked about lines and spaces and which pitches they correspond to, but we haven't really spoken all that much about duration here. And that's what I hope to do today. So we're opening a chapter which we're going to be talking about all about duration. And the first topic I like to cover in duration is notes. So many of you have heard this word before in the context of music. So notes. Now I've touched briefly upon what notes are and how we use them in both my second lesson about the elements of music and my fourth lesson about placing the notes on the staff. But I have never actually covered them properly. So the first natural question we want to cover is, what are notes fundamentally? And let's try to figure this out. Now, if you look this up on Wikipedia or something, I've seen some definitions be like it's the singular musical sound or it's the fundamental unit of music or stuff like that. But from a technical standpoint, we're actually trying to learn music. This is a symbol. This is the definition I assigned to them. They are symbols. I don't know what else to call them. They're symbols which tell us which tell us the duration of a sound. When we are writing down music, notes' main purpose is to tell us how long or short, remember the duration, how long or short to play that sound for. That's what their purpose is. And if you're wondering what notes look like, they look something like this. We've talked about this before. And so on and so forth. So just to give you some context here, where you place a note on the staff, where you're putting the note on the staff, you place notes on the staff, these symbols, and where you put it on the staff, how high or low you put it, that tells you its pitch, how high or low the sound is supposed to be when you play it, what key on the piano it's supposed to be. But when you look at that note, and there are multiple different types of notes, and you see which note it is, the type of note that it is going to tell you how long or short to play it. So each different type of note has a different note value corresponding with it, a different duration which corresponds to it, and depending on which note you look at, that's telling you a different duration. And with that out of the way, let's try to talk about how do notes tell us. That's the notes I said look something like this, and that is through the virtue of something called a note value. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but that is if each one of these notes has a value assigned to it. It's not in terms of seconds. You look at this music and it's 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, right? Because that would be problematic in multiple different ways. We don't write music like that. No, each one of these notes, each one of these different types of notes, each one of these different types of notes has a value associated with it, and indirectly, so stuff like time signature and tempo, indirectly that note value will tell you how long or short to play that note. So let's just recap what we talked about here. There are multiple different types of notes, and which note it is going to tell you how long or short to play a particular sound. And each note does not correspond to some period of time like 5 seconds, 3 seconds, but corresponds to a note value. And that value is what tells us eventually, after some deciphering, exactly how long to play that note. Okay, so now let's discuss the different types of notes. Now in this lesson I only want to cover 3, and you can think of these as the 3 basic types of notes. These are the 3 notes which are taught in music lessons, when you're introducing notes. But in the lesson following this, hopefully we'll cover 2 more, but in this lesson I wanted to cover the 3 major notes which we have in music. So the first note I want to cover, number uno, is the whole note. It's called the whole note. And what does the whole note look like? it looks like this. It's a singular oval which is not filled in. So if I do this, this is not a whole note. This is not what a whole note is. No, it's a singular oval which you draw like this, and it's not filled in, it's hollow, and that's it. You don't draw a line or a flag or nothing to posh or fancy. It's just very simplistic, one single oval. And you place, let me just draw makeshift stuff here. You will place this on a line or on a space like this. This is how you place the whole note, and it's just an oval, nothing else. And if you have any British friends with you, and they might look at this note and say, hey, well, that's a semi-breve. And indeed, this name right here is also a valid name for this note. So there are, in notes, for notes in general, there are two naming systems. There's the American one, which is the one up top here, and then there's the British one, which is the one here. Now you can use either, both are equally correct. However, when learning music for the first time, I would recommend you use the first one because it gives you an intuitive understanding for the value of the note, which we'll just get into, and it's much easier to remember. But keeping that in mind, I will be mentioning the British counterparts for these notes as going down as I talk about more. And just remember that these two are referring to the same note, just different naming systems. And as for the value of this whole note, the value of this note is equal to exactly 1. That is its note value. So the note value of a whole note is exactly 1. And we'll come to how this note, what this note value means in this lesson, in the lessons to come. But anyways, that's what you need to know about the whole note. The second note we want to talk about is called the half note. And of course, and the British name for this is the minim. And the half note looks something like this. So it's slightly different. So once again, it has a oval shape up here, but very important, it's hollow, not filled in. It's spacious. You don't fill this in. This is not a half note, as I was saying. This is a half note, right, where it's hollow and nothing is filled in, right? And it of course has the note head as we discussed, but unlike the whole note, it has a stem, what's called the note stem, and this is this line that goes down, and we've already talked about this. So if you ever want to differentiate between the whole note and the half note, it's that the half note has a stem. That's what makes it look different, right? And hopefully, if you've been watching my other lessons, if a half note, the direction of the stem changes. So if you're on the bottom half of the staff, it will be like this. If you're on the top half of the staff, it will be like that. It's the same note, right? The same type of note, it's just in different orientations depending on where it is placed in the staff. So once again, it's hollow oval at the top and a note stem. And the value of this note is exactly half, one half, 0.5. And hopefully you can figure out that this is the American naming system is coming in handy now. So a whole note's value is 1, a half note's value is half. Pretty intuitive there. And once again, this is how you draw a half note. And finally, the third note I want to talk about today is the quarter note. The British name for this note is the crotchet. And this is probably one of the most famous notes in music. Sorry, let me just start over there. So it's a filled in oval and a note stem. This is the note I have been using in most of my lessons on pitch. And as you can see, it's got a filled in oval at the top. So it's similar to the half note in structure, but the difference is that its head, its note head, is filled in. It's filled in, right? It's colored, fully colored. And it's not, and where the half notes one is hollow. And it too also has, like the half note, a note stem, which is this line that comes down from the note head. And it also abides by the same rules where it's pointing upwards in one direction and downwards in the other direction, which we've already covered. So this is what a quarter note looks like. And its value, hopefully you can surmise by now, is exactly 1 quarter, 0.25, 1 quarter, 1/4. And that's the value of a quarter note. So let's just recap. We have the whole note here, singular oval, not filled in, whose note value is 1. Then we have the half note, also known as the minim. It's one not filled in oval, hollow oval, and one line that goes down. It has a note stem, and that's its value is 1/2. Then we have the quarter note, which has a note head and a note stem, which means it has that circle and the a line that goes down, but the difference is this note head, this oval, is filled in. It's filled in, it's colored in. You usually find this colored in black, right? It's colored in. That's the main difference between the three. And the values are 1/2 and 1/4. So hopefully if you maybe want to take a screenshot of this, or if you remember it, that's good on you. But yeah, these are the three basic types of notes which I want to talk about today. Now moving forward from that, now what I'm going to do next, it's best to just get an intuitive understanding for it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the values. So based on these values, right, based on these values, how many half notes do you think make up a whole note? If you had to give a number of half notes which would be the same value as a whole note, what would it be? I want you to pause the video and think about it. Now, I've not taught you this yet. That's the point. I want you to pause the video, look at the note values, and think about it. So I'm assuming you paused the video and thought about it. And the answer is, you have to excuse my drawing here, but exactly 2. So 2 half notes together would have the same value as one whole note, because half plus half equals 1. So you can do some basic maths there. So 2 half notes have the same value as a whole note. Or you can think of this, a whole note has twice the value as a half note. And what that means is that a whole note, when we go further, a whole note is meant to be played twice as long as a half note. So by this, what I mean is that a whole note is double the length it's meant to be played twice as long as a half note in terms of duration. So let's try some other things. What about how many quarter notes in one half note? Again, I encourage you to pause the video, look at the values, and try. So I'm assuming you pause the video, and the answer is probably unsurprisingly exactly 2. Once again, because a quarter plus a quarter is equal to 1/2. And once again, what does this tell us? Because truly note values correspond indirectly to how long a shorter note is, that a half note is twice as long as a quarter note. Like 2 quarter notes together would equal a half note. So a half note is twice as long as a quarter note. And one more problem. Now I want you to tell me how many quarter notes, not half notes, how many quarter notes will fit into one whole note. Once again, I encourage you to pause the video and think about this. Okay, I'm assuming you paused it, and the answer is indeed 4. 4 quarter notes are the same as one whole note, because a quarter plus a quarter plus a quarter plus a quarter makes one whole. And what does this mean? It means that a whole note is 4 times as long as a quarter note. It is 4 times as long as a quarter note. That means that 4 quarter notes fit into one whole note. What does that mean? It's 4 times as long as a quarter note. And I would give you more problems, but hopefully, as you can see, there's no other mathematical combinations which I can give you which are unique. These are the 3 combinations, that's well, not including a worksheet. But hopefully this is what the values mean. So whole note is the same as 2 half notes, right? And what does that mean? That a whole note is twice as long as a half note. And similarly, you can go all the way down and make the same conclusions. So this is definitely something I wanted to talk about. This is how the note values correspond to how long or short they are, and this is how you can say. So half note, 2 half notes together are the same as one whole note. 4 quarter notes together are the same as one whole note. 2 quarter notes together are the same as one half note. Just remember that. And just before I leave you to for this lesson, I want to cover the note pyramid. It's just one way which is usually used to represent this whole note value situation. So maybe this will just give you a more intuitive understanding for what I was trying to say. So a whole note has 2 half notes, and a half note in turn has 2 quarter notes. And by this diagram, you could probably tell that 4 quarter notes together will make one whole note. And we usually continue this down, and we have 8th notes and 16th notes and 32nd notes, but we'll be covering that all later on. But I just thought I'd draw this for you. You'll probably find this on the walls of many music classrooms. It just gives you an intuitive understanding for what these note values mean. That being said, I've covered everything I wanted to cover today. Hopefully you found this lesson useful. Hopefully you learned something valuable from it. Hopefully you've enjoyed sitting here today, and I will see you next time. I'm wishing you a very nice day, and see you next lesson. Bye.